But what we can already see is that this attack marks the weapons used were far greater in number and in firepower than those that have been previously employed by Iran. Is the nature of the defense. It is truly remarkable how effectively and swiftly defense systems were able to intercept virtually every single drone or missile. But it is no miracle. It rather shows the real value of consistent, long-term investment in advanced defense capabilities and technologies. And above all, it shows the value of building partnerships and cooperation with allies. The central role of the United States, the UK, France, and others should not be underestimated. And nor should the role of the Arab countries in the region in averting a far greater damage. And the third point about this weekend is what it tells us about the wider threat landscape. Because this attack should not be seen in isolation. It was the latest signal of intent of a new league of authoritarians. Russia's brutal war of aggression against Ukraine is now in its third year and is more entrenched and intense than ever. North Korea is delivering order after order of ammunition shells to Russia. Iranian drones are flying over Ukrainian cities on a daily basis. Iran is even helping Russia with the technology and the manufacturing it needs to build those drones on home soil. States. Non-state groups, like the Houthis, are being armed with new tech weapons to inflict untold damage. The new league of authoritarians is working in concert and to stretch our democracies to the breaking point. So, ladies and gentlemen, the point is that the world is as dangerous as it has been for generations, and Europe is in the middle of it. So this is why it is time for the European awakening on defense and security. Because there is so much at stake here. Our freedom and our prosperity depend on our security. And we have to bring our actions in line with the changing security environment. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we need to start working on the future of our security architecture with all of the speed and all of the political will that it requires. As part of this, which will always remain, of course, in the hands of our member states. So let me be very clear, the member states will always be responsible for their troops, for example, and all the decisions linked to that, from recruitment to training, from the doctrine that is so important, to the deployment decision. This is absolutely the foundation for every member state. But Europe also has tools and responsibilities in the area that is critical to our defense. Take the single market, or take research, take the innovation point, or industry. These are all European competences and much more. So we need to use Europe's combined financial, structural, and political strength where it can have the biggest impact. Because Europe's defense is a task for all of Europe, with member states and EU institutions closely working together. Now, we have shown in the last years how this can work in practice. Member states have stepped up their defense spending. The national defense budgets have already risen by 20% since 2022, so the beginning of the Russian aggression in Ukraine. This has started to compensate for the underinvestment of years. And at the same time, We're spending capacities and projects between Europeans. Just take the European Peace Facility that has mobilized 6.1 billion euros to support the Ukrainian armed forces with lethal and non-lethal military equipment and supplies. And of course, the European Defence Fund is investing in high-end defence capabilities in critical areas. You know them, such as naval or the ground, the air combat, space-based early warning, or take cyber. And now with our most recent proposal for a European defence industrial program, we propose to dedicate an additional 1.5 billion euros from the EU budget. So we know that it can be done, and we're showing the way to a more sovereign Europe. And here at that point, a more sovereign Europe, let me be very clear. European sovereignty is needed, but European sovereignty will never be at the expense of our partners and friends. And it will certainly never affect the importance and the need for our NATO alliance. In fact, a more sovereign Europe, and you know it, in particular in defense, is vital to strengthening NATO, as member states have plain and simply one single set of forces. You're familiar with that. But at its core, European sovereignty is about taking responsibility ourselves, taking responsibility for what is vital and even existential for us. And that is precisely what leaders agreed in the Versailles Agenda just after the start of the war, and that is what we followed up by the Granada Declaration.